What's up, guys? I'm Ryan. This is RC Tech TV, and today we're going to switch up the gears a little bit, and we're going to do a how-to video on turnbuckles, kind of everything you need to know about them, and then some really good tips to make things a lot easier on your fingers, and we'll go from there. So we're kind of switching this channel up a little bit, and actually coming from a previous channel, so as you guys watch this, I will be releasing a lot of different types of videos as far as tech tips and unboxing, reviews, user guides, things like that. So make sure you guys subscribe below to make sure you guys get all these videos, and then we'll just keep moving along. So without further ado, we'll move right into it. So some of the things you're going to want to have in front of you when you go to either build a kit or do a repair at the track. And then these are just some of the tools that I use. You don't necessarily need all of them, but so the first one is obviously just a pair of calipers. This is just my home set. I just leave this around. It doesn't actually even have a battery, but for the intents and purposes of this, you're just going to be using it to measure what's on your vehicle and then back to the size that it needs to be. And then obviously a turnbuckle wrench. I keep a pair of shock shaft pliers on here just in case I need to grip them. And then when you grip these, if you're using shock pliers, you don't want to mar those up. So aim for a spot where there's no thread and you're not on the square part of the turnbuckle. So and then you're going to want a razor. Obviously the part you're going to replace, and I did want to talk about this real quick. So this is DuPont Krytox. This is what we use on our machines at work, as well as all of our aerospace components we send out to clients. This stuff basically is indestructible. It's not burnable. It doesn't freeze until you get to like negative 320 centigrade. It's meant for deep space, and it's all certified material. It's actually not that expensive. A full stick, I think, is like $25 maybe. And make sure you get one with this label. The newer one is a lot more expensive. This is just kind of the product that's making its way off the shelf. So anyways, without getting too sidetracked there, and then I just got some other examples here of 8th scale and a 10th scale. So on the ends of these, you're going to either have a capture ball, or a ball stud, or some type of device to lock it in place, but still let it move freely. So what we're going to do is dive right into this. We'll zoom in and do a build, and we'll talk through it. Alright, so taking a look at this here, we're going to grab our tie rods. And the first thing you want to do when you get your tie rods, this one is, I believe, used from a kit I just grabbed somewhere. I don't actually have an extra one for my XB8 at this point. It should be here in the mail soon. Anyways, so go ahead and look at your tie rods, and on one side of them, let's see if we can zoom up real close here. You will see an indication notch, and so you can kind of see that when I rotate it there. There is a notch on this side of the tie rod, and so when you look at these, manufacturers may be different, but this notch does not indicate the thread rotation. This notch just represents, that the thread itself will be the same rotation for all of the tie rods on that side. This one specifically just happens to be a counterclockwise thread, so we know that if we put all of these tie rods in the same orientation on the vehicle, so that's front, back, left, right, up, down, put them all to the driver's side or the right side of the vehicle, and that way you know that when you rotate it forward, you're going to be loosening or expanding the turnbuckle, and when you go to the rear of the vehicle, you're tightening it or decreasing the distance of those ball studs at the end. And so that's just a quick setup tip for when you're doing your camber checks and all the suspension tuning before you hit the track. That's just a quick tip, so you're not going back and forward and trying to figure it out as you go. And so as we jump right into this here, these are the camber links for the XB8. We're just going to use these for the example here. So go ahead and sit your tie rod down. A build tip is if you always put the tie rod with that notch onto it to the right side, you'll always be assembling these the same way. So just stack them up here and all the way down. So first thing you're going to want to do when you get these guys here is just take a look at it and see if there's any defects in it or cracks or anything like that that could cause an issue putting a part on there. So when you guys get these from the factory, they will not be threaded. Some are, these ones are not. But the first thing you're going to want to do to assist that thread getting in there is take a little razor and then very carefully cut, and maybe just let it kind of glide across the surface there. You're going to cut a little bit of a chamfer or a lip for the thread to kind of work its way into. This is really important on the 10 scale ones, just because you're not really having a bunch to hold on to on the actual tie rod when you're threading it in. So just a little on the edge to get it going is all you're going to need. And so once you've done that, the second part of this, believe it or not, you're actually going to want to put grease on the threads, which is like the opposite of thread locker, because you want this to be able to be nice and free and able to rotate when you're doing all your vehicle tuning. And you don't need a lot on there, not a lot at all. Just enough to kind of keep things lubricated as you go in there. And what that's going to do is that's going to decrease the friction inside this ball stud on the end when you start working to it. So once you've done that, you can grab it, and I'm just going to kind of get it started there. And you're going to rotate it on. And at this point, you can either take, I use actually a pair of an adjustable wrench, and I just kind of set them in there, especially when I'm doing kit builds, because after you do 10 or 12 of these, it gets kind of monotonous. So at this point, you just grab your little wrench, lock it in place, and then work these all the way down. And then once you get both sides assembled here, you're going to kind of want to do this as evenly as possible. And that's just going to make sure that you have enough room to thread and de-thread on your link there. So at this point, what you'd want to do is take a measurement or go to your user manual for your vehicle and get your inside to inside dimension. It's usually in millimeters for most of these guys, but if it's in inches, the point where you're checking there is between these two surfaces here. So whatever they're calling out as your distance for your starting setup, or whatever setup they're calling out in your guide, that's the dimension you're going to be using right there. And so like I said, once this thing is all assembled, you'll put it on your vehicle, and then I know we put grease on there, but these two locations on the outside are always going to be locked. So there's not going to be actually any physical rotation on this axis here, and so it won't come loose. So we'll kind of come back out, take a quick look at this, and move forward. Alright, so there's your tech tip for the day, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Again, this was how to do your tie rods and a couple of tech tips on the bench while you're working on them. And so that's pretty much how I do all of my tie rods, whether I'm doing kit builds or just repair at the track. It's very important that you be very consistent around the buggy or vehicle you're working on, just to make sure that all your geometry stays nice and square, and that you're working with true angles when you're actually doing your setup. It's really something that's important, but I think is kind of overlooked in the beginning stages of RC racing, and so that's just something that we all need to make sure we're helping out with at the track when you see people doing setups. If they're newer guys out there, I'm sure they'd love to have you come over, and if you know what you're doing, give them a hand. And it's all about the community, guys, so make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below. I could really use the support now and just getting this channel up and going again. And so I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.